think everybody's familiar with who I am. My name is Robin. Would you please remember, silence your cell phones before we get started? That would be great. Also, in your little packets is this great little evaluation sheet. Would everybody take, kind of at the end, take a few minutes and fill this out? We are planning 2015, so really looking for ideas, suggestions for speakers, topics, outings, activities. Just the sky's the limit. So please, please, please fill these out. And I need to thank some of our sponsors. Without them, we would not be here today. Jones & Roth is our title sponsor. Thank you to Jones & Roth. We have our media sponsors that help us get the word out. We have Sonia and her team, Ben Broadband, who work very hard for us. We have the Combined Communications team that works very, very hard for us. So I want to thank them. We want to thank Bengal Country Club for hosting our venue for us. So before we get started, I just want to give a few reminders. Our next session is on October 14th, which is going to be with our very own Diane Allen. Diane, raise your hand back here. She's with Elegant Expressions. The topic is Gender Gap and Your Voice. So Diane has spoken for us before. She's incredible, dynamic, so be sure to mark your calendars for that. And then also coming up, I want to share with you, please get on the website and check out, we have a new series that we're rolling out as well. It's a certification, Fin Chamber Master Series. The next one starts October 1st. It is actually going to be on surviving social media. So it's actually 4 consecutive sessions. It's not just one. It's actually a full 4 consecutive sessions. By the time you finish, it's about 2.5 hours each class. It's going to be at Pine Ridge. You will actually have a little certificate that actually shows that you've completed the course. And we're going to really get in depth. A lot of meat behind it. So please go on the website, look at that. And now I actually want to bring up Jennifer, which is our title sponsor from Jones & Roth. That's going to introduce our speaker, Lynette. Thank you for being here. Everybody, have a good session.
Thank you, Robin. On behalf of Jones & Roth, I would like to just welcome you all here today. And we are very proud to be the title sponsor of this really worthwhile women's educational series. Our speaker this afternoon is Lynette Xanders. She is the CEO of Wild Alchemy. Don't you love that? I love that. It is a transformation studio for companies and creative agencies to help them increase productivity and success. She holds a degree from the prestigious Purdue University, and she has over 20 years of experience in the advertising field with very well-known advertising agencies. In addition to her experience there, she is an experienced moderator, a brand strategist, and she also conducts training workshops for companies such as Patagonia, Columbia, and Adidas. Lynette is married, and she has an almost 14-year-old daughter who loves soccer. They currently reside in the Mount Hood area, but they have been trying to get over to Central Oregon for quite some time, of course. Her family enjoys skiing, and they ski at Mount Hood quite often, but they also find themselves over here at Mount Bachelor quite often, of course. More often than not. Lynette has a passion for fixing things, as you can tell with her career. She fixes companies, individuals, and even furniture. Because you see, she is also an artist. And in her spare time, she refinishes children's furniture. And you will know her because I understand she uses lots of glitter. Today, Lynette is going to teach us about Brand You, a recalibration of how you think about yourself and your personal brand. It's about being focused, aligned, and ignited to do our best work and to be the best that we can be. So with that, is my honor and my great privilege to introduce to you Lynette Xanders.
You can write mine anytime. That was awesome. Really? Wow. Sounds so grown up. Is this on? I don't think it is.
I don't think you need it though.
Do I need it? Can you hear me?
No, yeah.
Okay, I'll try to yell. So, and not going to get in the way of that. We have a lovely low tech today, so get help driving if you don't mind on this. thank you guys for having me. It is always fun to chat with people, and I get the brand passion out there, kind of outside of boardrooms. So my firm belief is that everything is a brand, and that good brands can be described like people, the same way really iconic people can be described as brands. And I'll give you some examples of those. But brand is really just a lightning rod for associations. Kind of everything that you do, that you wear, that you say, if you have a signature style, a signature dish, signature stationery, signature phrase, everything kind of comes together around your brand, whether it's your face, your name, whatever that anchor for your brand is. And I have a worksheet for you, because I like to go through the exercise of thinking of yourself like literally as a brand. If you were to launch it tomorrow, what would an icon or logo be? What's your magnetic virtue? And I'll explain what that is. So we're going to fly through some of these exercises and playing with some things. And if you have your own company, it might be easy enough for you to do, although it's always the forest for the trees. If you don't, it's kind of fun to pretend you had an altered career. So thinking of all the fun things that you could do if you actually could make money doing them, and building a brand around that, just for the sake of scratching an itch or exercising the muscles. So we're going to play a little bit. It's going to be as interactive as you want it to be, in terms of, you can write down thoughts on those sheets, or at some stage we'll throw things for the room, or just to kick them around, because it's fun. I'm just gonna fly. And if you, do you mind? So I think it was one of the best introductions I've had, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but I do whatever needs to be done to get great brands to live out loud. Often that has to do with advertising. You have to have some external expressions to build a brand. But I work with ad agencies, design firms, web development firms, PR firms, so expressions have a really broad output in my world. And again, even if it's just your personal brand, sometimes it's the words that you use to describe your own work that people will play back to you. So, expressions can even just be sitting in a meeting and reminding yourself of to be more creative, for example. So, loads of expressions and loads of clients. Thank you. Please. Worked on probably every category that there is. Thankfully, not a lot of pharmaceutical, so that's my one. I'm gonna pass on that one. But for the most part, if it's a passion category, I want to play. So outdoor gear, shoes, beer banks, and baby food. And it's not so much that it's like, well, you don't specialize. And I do specialize in brands, but I don't specialize in a category, because I think it's far more interesting and helpful to borrow things from other categories. You can learn how to position a bank by airlines, studying airlines. They both have about 10 minutes to kind of create an experience and make an impression. So by studying other categories and bringing that to bear, sometimes you can find new doors into getting people to believe what you want them to believe and do what you want them to do. So today, I hope it's about cultivating a muscle. Sometimes I just say I like to tweak your brain just a little bit to help people see what I see. It can be an illness, I'll forewarn you. It may help you be more marketable, either within your own company or getting a new job or getting your alter career out there. I mean, at the end of some of these workshops, I've had people actually start their alter careers and leave their day jobs. Oh, yes. But it's an entrepreneurial revolution I'm happy to stoke. So it can be just for fun, but I think you'll find it can be useful whether you take it to your day job or just use it for your own self. So what are we doing? We want to present an intentional united front. So trust comes from knowing how someone or something is going to behave. If it becomes fragmented, if it becomes schizophrenic, it's just kind of true in brands, it's true in people. If you never know really what you're going to expect, then you start to lose trust. So consistency is kind of the hallmark of trust. So we want to present a united front. We want to set ourselves apart right? We want to stand out and don't necessarily want to be same old, same as everybody else. It's really hard to stand out in today's marketplace. Even in social media, you know, now it's got to be some crazy photo that you throw out there. Oh, I like that. We want to lure like-minded people, whether it's people to us or to our company. I always find that a brand is a filter, that you can put it out there and it will attract like-minded people, and ideally it might repel some not ideal people. So for example, I chose the name Wild Alchemy on purpose. So if I said I was so-and-so research and strategy company, then P&G would call me. And I didn't want P&G to call me. So I was gonna put a brand out there that kind of said, this is the kind of work that I want, and I'm gonna demonstrate it and say it and not just think it, right? And of course add value. You know, anytime you can get people to stroke you checks that actually make your toes curl, life's good, right? So it can, a great many benefits of branding. So it's an example of person as brand. And brand as person. So this was, it's just a book, oh, and I can't remember, Heinrich, I think is his name, but he did the entire alphabet in different fonts and related those to the people that reminded him of that font. So I see that font, I think him. I see him, I think that brand, right? So they're very much inextricably intertwined. Please. Einstein. It's a good font for him. And please. And Marilyn. And so part of this is making associations, is pattern recognition, and part of it's putting words to it. So if you think of yourself, and this is homework for later, you're gonna have a lot of homework because we've got loads to cover. One is to think of a font. You know, what is a font that represents your style, your personality, your way of being, and then put words to that. So what might this be? It might be approachable, it might be ubiquitous, it might be golden, it might be flashy. There's more than one right answer. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with this one.
Are you?
Because I think of McDonald's.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's golden arches.
McDonald's,
Yes.
the brand,
It's the golden
as
girl.
opposed to the food. So, and this was, again, if we think of it in terms of over 100 years, and not just McDonald's now. And it doesn't have to necessarily make sense. It was, you know, his wing at it. But the idea of being an icon. So McDonald's is known around the world. Maryland's going to be known around the world.
Okay.
Right. So loose associations, but again, thinking of just, and it kind of takes us to brand in general. I mean, often when people think of a brand, they think of a product. Well, this is the same as this. Or I think of Southwest Airlines, and I'm going to think of my experience, as opposed to all the other things you can think about when you think about a brand. And I'll show you some of this as we go forward. Please. One of the things about a brand, or at least about fixing companies, so I'll throw you some culture stuff as in addition to brand stuff, because I think they're, again, inextricably intertwined. If you made a list of all the stuff that you love to do in your current job, in your current career. So I love to do, you know, kick around strategy, I love to solve problems, I love to fix things. I don't love billing, accounting, sitting in meetings, you know, yeah, good face. All of those other things. So if you're in charge of your own company, if you're in charge of a bigger company, if you're in charge of just your own culture, know the stuff that you love to do about your craft, about your industry, and know the stuff that you don't love to do, and then figure out a way to reduce it or outsource it. And first piece of advice I got when I went freelance a long time ago was get a really good help. I said, okay, one day I'll get really good. He said, no, tomorrow, get really good help. I said, well, I don't need clients, I don't have an income. I said, you can't afford to not to. You won't even start your business if you don't get help. So I put an ad out on Craigslist for a chaos wrangler and a mom. And again, that recruitment ad is part of my expression, right? I'm gonna lure like-minded people, and I want to repel people who aren't gonna be a good cultural fit. So I said that not every day will not be the same as the last. You gotta keep the lights on, you gotta make sure I stay fed, but I have immense flexibility on offer. I don't care when you work, where you work, how you work, whatever you need, you know. And I had a couple people show up and they were all awesome. And then I had this awesome person show up. And traditionally, I said, I need a bookkeeper. First and foremost, I need a bookkeeper. And she's like, I'm all these things except a bookkeeper. Oh! But, you know, that's the you have to go first. And say, okay, I need to commit to really wanting this. So I said, I will have my bookkeeper who's retiring, the lady I was just using by the hour, teach you how to be a bookkeeper, but then you can never leave me. She said, okay, deal. So 10 years later, she's now director of sanity at Wild Apple. She does everything from IT to travel to project management to all the stuff Lynette doesn't want to do. So it's just been starting out with know what you love to do, know what you don't love to do, get help doing what you don't want to do. You'd be amazed. There are people who love to do that stuff you don't love to do. And there are ways to do it. You know, again, now it's hourly. You can find people who do all kinds of things by the hour. But I digress. So, part of this is an audit of what you believe, you know, truisms, truths about you, what your role in the universe is, in your day job or your altered career. What are the benefits of working with you in particular? And how do your customers want to see themselves? And this is kind of an odd one, but it's, and I'll get into this in a minute, but a brand is both what you do for someone, you know, what your product does for them, and it's what your brand says about them. So if, you know, your clients want to see themselves as tried and true and reliable and bulletproof, and they're gonna find you because you are also those things and wanna be those things, awesome. If you are wild and free and they want you to someone to color outside the lines, awesome. So what you put out there is also what you're gonna attract, but knowing what it says about them and why they want those things is kind of where the rubber's gonna hit the road and you're gonna find your niche in the world. And hopefully as I go through these, I'll give you some examples. It'll make a little more sense. So do be say, a brand is what you do, what the product does. It is how you or your company behaves, and it's what you say externally. So thoughts are kind of standing at the door of opportunity. Words are knocking at the door of opportunity. You actually put it into words. Actions are actually opening the door. So kind of knowing where you want to go, and then knowing what levers to turn. Who you are, what you do for people, and what you say to people. Magnetic virtues I'll go into in a moment, but I'll give you some examples. But it's really simplifying your brand in terms of benefits. One of the biggest problems people have with branding is that they really want to talk about me and what I do and what I make and what my product does and what we as a company do, and it's really got to be all about them. It's what's in it for them, why are they interested, what problem are we solving? So it's just kind of flipping what you want to say into what they need to hear. Betamax is my other great example of how it is not all about the product. And you are not a room full of engineers, but I often talk to a room full of engineers. And they will say, well, we have the best product in the market. You know, it's just far and above, better than anything out there. And all we have to do is tell people about that. As soon as they all we have to do, you kind of go, yeah, okay. So the rule of thumb with that is, if a superior product sold itself, we would all have a Betamax. It was far superior technology, miles above. It still is, but VCR got out there first, and they said, oh, we have distribution, oh, we can make this simple, and oh, this is what you can do with it. And people said, I don't care if that's better. I want to do this because this is what I can do with it. So again, it doesn't have to be the best. You don't have to be the best at what you do. You just have to be the first. You have to be the loudest, or you have to say it the best. God bless you. So with, in terms of organizing businesses, strategic planning. Bless you. It's that time of year again, you gotta do it, Therese. Come on.
I always do it.
So in organizing a business, brand has got to be tied to business, I think. I mean, ultimately we want a strong brand because we want the company to thrive. We want to grow, we want to make money. Because that will allow us to have freedom, and then we get to go outside and play, right? It's kind of my little theory anyway. So following the money, following the love, and following the pride. Following the money is knowing what 20% of your products and services, or what 20% of your customers or clients make up 80% of your revenues. The 80-20 rule applies everywhere. So whether it's your alter career or your business, know where your lions are. Your lions are your lion's share of revenue. 80% of your revenues are going to come from 20% of your people or 20% of your products. So know where those are. And if you focus your brand on those people, you will never go far wrong. Other people will find you. I think another trouble spot is when people try to chase the market and they try to chase prospects and try to be all things to all people. And that just, you end up diluting it to nothing. So lions, horses, and dogs. So lions are lion's share of your revenue. Horses are opportunities. Clients or customers or products that have potential, they just haven't realized them yet. And dogs are, well, dogs are dogs. Dogs are clients who suck up our time and energy. Products who require time and effort, but they don't pay off. They don't bring in as much income. So the rule of thumb is feed your lions, make sure they're happy, ride your horses, see if you can find a way to get them into the foray, and shoot your dogs. Terrible expression, I know.
That's just gonna say that, call me.
I call you, you're all good. I didn't make it up, just sharing it with you. Following the
She doesn't
money.
know what I do.
No, she
What do you
cremates
do?
dogs.
I have a pet cremation business here.
Nice. I lovingly required your services, so thank you for that. So the following the money, obviously, follow where the money comes from. Following the love is following those clients, customers, services, the things where people are passionate. So clients who love you, customers who love you and talk about you, who are ambassadors, products that you put out there that people talk about. So that would be following the love. And pride is staff, if you have staff, or internal staff, is knowing why people are proud to work at that company. You know, what, so Rich worked for Deschutes Brewery. And one of the things that we wanted to know, so we asked staff to write love letters to the brand. And it was just amazing. You know, I came every day for a year to see if you had a job available. Every day for a year. And the reasons why they loved it, and the reasons why they would be proud to work there, was like became the cornerstone of the brand. And then we found out what customers said, and we married those. But you know, the internal has to match the external, you know, at that level. So following love, the money, and the pride. And then mirroring that ideal. You know, again, if your ideal customers, your lions who are also ambassadors, if they held a mirror up and you held a mirror up, you should see yourselves. At least some points of connection. And if not, there's more work to do. But you know, follow current successes and build from those. So Virgin is one of my examples of if you haven't built an alter career yet, and you want to build a brand, and I kind of, if you come to my workshop, I make you do this. But since this is a lunch, you don't have to do this. So Virgin, what I love about Virgin is they can be in the cell phone industry, they can be in the music industry, they can be in the airline industry, they can be in the space travel industry, and yet they still only have one brand. So if you can think of somewhere on your piece of paper 5 things that you love to do that you might be able to make money doing them. Can be completely different things. Can be I want to sew pajama pants and I want to sing opera. And I can consult Mary Kay, right? So 5 things you can do that you might be able to make money doing them. And then if we were to think of a brand name or an icon, which we will go down the line, know that it doesn't have to be specific to the industry, right? Your brand can live at the 30,000 foot level. It can be something that just means something to you. It can be how you define success. It can be a Latin word. It could be, just an icon of some sort, and you put words to it. Wild Alchemy as a name wasn't really, I knew I needed a brand name. So I put the question out there. So again, remember, thoughts are one thing, writing something down is another thing, doing something about it is another. So I at least mentally said, I need a brand name. And I wrote down kind of what I wanted and what I didn't want, right? So I didn't want Procter & Gamble to call me. That's kind of all I knew. And I sat in a meeting, and it was for the Experience Music Project. And we brought in all kinds of experts, and we were kicking around brainstorming ideas. And the request for proposal, the RFP said, well, you need to outline your process for coming up with ideas. Just how? Like, what do you mean? There's no process for coming up with ideas. There's no, like, formula you go through and no exercises that you do. You put the right people in the right room, you ask a really juicy question, and then it's kind of this wild alchemy of ideas that bounce off each other until you can see vapor in a jar. Until you go, oh, that's something cool. And I felt a goosebump when somebody said it. And that's when I knew I got to pay attention to that. So if you feel your way through things, as you write things, as you say them, as you talk to people, and you get a little hint of a goosebump, pay attention. You won't even know at the time that it's going to be important because music doesn't play. Jot it down somewhere, think about it, see what you can do with it. So part of this is going to be writing the brief, part of it's reframing how we think about it. And then it's kind of kicking it around and seeing what bubbles up and then getting the kind of courage to jot that down and hang on to it and say, ooh, what can I do with that? So maybe I could use that for something. So you got your 5 things, at least a couple. You know, I used to cut hair, type papers, walk dogs, all that good fun stuff. And then thinking about things that mean something to you. So just take a second to jot down. So I've got icons and meanings in the worksheet. And you don't have to write in those. You can just keep them if you want. You can write on them if you want. But an icon and a meaning could be something that you doodle. It could be some shape that you've always loved. It could be something that has some meaning, that or that you could make meaning around it. If you could tell a story around it. And I'll give you another example. So when I was kicking around going freelance, I thought, okay, how do I define success? And we will do this. So success at that time was, I don't ever want to go to another meeting that I'm not paid for, ever. I never want to go to a morning meeting. And I kind of was going through the, how do I define success? And one of the things that popped up was, I wanted to live in Mexico. Just loved the whole idea of paddling out to the mailbox. Oh, look, there's money, mailbox money. So that would have been ideal for me. So I found myself collecting suns. You know, I was on a bookmark and had something on a sticker, and all of a sudden I was just seeing them places. So I was like, okay, what am I trying to tell myself? And I was like, oh, living in Mexico, you know, basking in the sun. So what I tried to do then was take that one icon that had some connection to my definition of success and tried to connect that to what I do for companies, or what I could do for companies, or how I could make money. I had to kick it around for a while, because a sun, you start thinking of just a sun. I started thinking of all of the associations around it. You go into the thesaurus, you kind of just think about it for a while, and all of a sudden, it dawned on me that that sun could also represent illumination. And what I did for companies through focus groups, and still do for companies through discovery, is, you know, help illuminate what the problem is and the direction to go there. So that sun was my first logo. It reminded me of what I do and the benefit of what I do, and it reminded me of what I wanted out of all this extra work. So thinking about, and again, you don't have to answer it today, but at least ask yourself the question to say, ooh, what would an icon be that could mirror what I do, what I love to do, and what I want out of this? So again, plant the seed. We'll go through this as we go. But that's going to be part of our little exercise today. And there's more than one right answer. You don't even have to show it to people. You don't have to tell people. Just write it down and think about it and see if you come up with something better. So I always say, try it on like a coat for a day and see what happens. Magnetic virtues are kind of the difference between what you make and what you're really selling. So again, back to, it's not about the product. Volvo makes cars. They sell safety. Safety is their magnetic virtue. It is why people who love Volvo bought a Volvo. Their tagline, for life, is kind of a mirror between that safety promise and that people keep them forever. So that's where you kind of ideally want to get that tag.
So is that why I have a Mazda? Because there's a zoom zoom. It's a speed.
Wiki, you know, wherever you see connections. You know. Harley Davidson makes motorcycles. They sell rebellion.
Oh, they sell freedom.
Now it's freedom, yeah. But I already have one that was freedom, so I'm gonna stick with our old rebellion. The thing I love about rebellion is that it's tribal. So there are more Harley Davidson stickers on cars than there are actually Harley Davidsons on the road. Which means it's a badge brand, which means people are not buying it because they have one, they buy it because they aspire to something about that brand. So now it may be freedom to get rid of the minivan. But the idea again is it's what not just what it does for you, it's what it says about you. Southwest Airlines, cheap airline seats. This is called laddering up. Cheap airline seats. What can I do with cheap airline seats? Oh, I can travel anytime I want, which allows me to be spontaneous, which gives me freedom. You are now free to move about the country. Bing! Brilliant, goosebump, right? So as I think people try to start with the tagline around what you do, but if you kind of ladder this up to what's the benefit of that, what's the benefit of that, what's the benefit of that, and what do I want out of all this, and you find something that lives in that space, that's where the juicy bits are. It's going to keep you motivated, it's going to lure like-minded people, and it's going to make your brand magnetic. So, I actually need napkins, the one that I messed with, I refolded it quite well though, thank you.
You did.
Oh, he doesn't want to come off.
Wow.
All right, let me flip this over. Flip, I was going to say flip. Flip to flip chart. So, I believe that there are 3 pillars to a strong brand. One is, oh look, your phone number. I believe every job and every brand Tighten. Trust equipment. Thank you, darling. All right. Yellow, and black. So, if you were to find words to describe creative people. So, and somewhere on a piece of paper, at least 3 words. Creative people are blank, blank, blank. Side of that, oh, it's distracting, it's coming off. Business people are blank, blank, blank. And at least 3. And my most favorite sales people are blank, blank, blank. And what generally happens is that when I ask a room of creative people, God bless you, it's catchy. But I ask a room of creative people to describe creative people. It's, we're brave and original and all these wonderful things. I ask creative people to describe business people. They're dry and uptight and boring. And flip side, you should hear how business people talk about creative people. Irresponsible, flighty, they don't show up, and then both of them gang up on salespeople. Holy moly. But if you can sell something, you will always have a job. And every job is sales. Every job is creative. Every job has to be business-minded or strategic. So our first job is to think better of those 3 pillars because we need all 3 of them in our brand. So, throw me some, just for giggles. Creative people are
Exciting.
Flighty,
Exciting.
Artistic, yeah.
exciting,
Laid back.
Fun. Colorful. Inspired.
Unreliable.
nice.
Out of the box.
Yep, love it.
Totally.
Business people are
Professional.
Exact.
Organized.
Reliable.
Overachievers.
Driven.
Boring.
Analytical. And salespeople.
Awesome.
Persuasive.
Outgoing. Forward. Aggressive.
Talking.
Personable.
Let's be positive.
Courageous.
Love it.
Yeah, they are courageous, that's for sure.
That's a good one.
So, your job is if you don't have a good word under each of these, you gotta come up, you can borrow one of these. Get a good word under each of these headers. And then find one of these words out of each of these columns that you would be willing to take on under your own brand. So I need one. You say, okay, those are what I have or what I want more of or what I want to project.
Okay.
I know. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna tell you a little, tiny little story. The whole thing around sales is changing how you feel about it. So when I got into advertising, I got into it basically because I told the owner of an ad agency that I never, ever wanted to work for an ad agency. Ever. And he said, well, why not? I was like, you people, like, make people buy things they don't need, and you treat people like they're stupid, and blah, 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 blah. He was not going for the ad job, as you could tell. And he just kind of smiled, and he said, you'd be a perfect strategist. Because if you came in here and told me everything was great, we'd still be making the same schlock. But if you're telling me that things can be better, and you're willing to do that from the inside instead of throwing stones from the outside, then things are gonna be better. He said, you don't have to work on anything you don't have to work on. And he said, the thing about it is you believe that advertising can make people do things they don't want to do. And that's simply not true. He said, you are not their mom. You are not their editor. You are not their boss. They are grown people. And as soon as you start thinking about using it for, say, a nonprofit, oh, all of a sudden it's not so bad, is it? So think of it as helping people make better decisions. Sales is basically conversations. You are helping people understand what you can do for them and what problems you can solve that should help them, right? It's like we're not making stuff up here. Don't look like people who do that kind of thing. So if you think about it differently, you're not convincing them to do something they wouldn't do ordinarily. You're not getting them to do something that's gonna hurt them. You actually, if you have a benefit to provide, you need to tell them about that so that they can make better decisions. You don't have to keep living with that same thing that you could fix tomorrow. So, we just have to feel differently about sales. And I'm a big fan of reading books. So I was like, I don't want to be a salesperson, because my dad's like, you would be a great salesperson. So, but it has to be something you believe in. So just start reading books. Anything that you need to fill a gap in your life, read books. And it's true, if you can read, you can cook, you can do anything. So picked up a couple, I'm like, okay, I got this, right? Short, concise, benefit-driven, no worries. The thing I want to tell you about these 3 words for you is some of them might be true, some of them could be really true, some of them could be more true, some of them might not be true at all, but it's what we want more of. So what's going to help us in each of these is if you have a gap to fill, commit to filling the gap and just learning about it, read a book. And then find a poster child, famous person, living or dead, who represents each of those 3 words that you chose. And there can be quotes by trying to look this stuff up, right? So I found one, Robert Redford, of all people, because now he's got Sundance, right? He's all that. He had a quote and he said, I am absolutely an artist. My expression just happens to be business, right? They can smash up. Richard Branson. Creative, yes. Business-minded, yes. Sales guy, yeah. And I throw sales as charisma. You know, are you just kind of out there inviting people to play? That's kind of how I think about it. So thinking of poster children, famous person, living or dead, who represents your 3 words, can kind of ground that in your mind's eye. And as soon as you have a vision for something, that's kind of the same as having an action toward it, right? It's something that we will subconsciously work toward. whether we know we're doing it or not. So anybody need a kick in the pants, some ideas for their 3 words? One play?
I will. I always say I'm not creative.
Bull. Some kind of creative. Nothing.
Very black and white.
And black and white doesn't necessarily mean
Parallel lines.
not creative.
Literal.
So Escher.
Opposite of creative.
Escher's all straight lines, black and white, no in between. Just depends how you spin it. So I would find something under here that could live under here that you believe could be slightly true. You need something.
Come on, you gotta be fun.
Colorful.
Colorful. In what way?
Your clothes.
Bubbly, sparkly,
Your home.
funny,
Not funny. Bubbly, I guess.
upbeat.
Brandy speaks our minds.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, poor birdie. Oh, poor birdie.
What was that?
Oh, was it a bird?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
I need your
He's
services.
okay.
I know.
Is he okay?
I don't know. I don't see it.
We're gonna assume so, yes. Yes.
I don't know where it went.
Just flew away.
Yep, he's
So,
gone. He's happy.
Oh, good.
if you have trouble with these, I'm just gonna ask you to commit to putting a toe in that water. Because you need something in each of those legs, right? So some of the most, I don't know, creative and business, or think about Richard Branson and say, you know, he doesn't necessarily strike me as completely wild and crazy, or Robert Redford for that matter. So if you look at the ways that they might express their creativity, you might see some alignment in there. So if we go colorful, what would your business word be? Doesn't have to be one of these.
Oh, I just said, oh, is it what you strive for? Or?
It should be 2 rungs above where you think you are.
Not the professional, but.
Professional. And any sales words?
I said reliable, but I am reliable. I guess I was looking at what I strive to, what I think I am. I don't know. So you're saying it's 2 below where you want
2
to be?
rungs above.
Oh, above.
Above. So striving for is all good. Striving for is awesome. When Umpqua Bank started, they didn't have one bank, not one. But they strove to be like Virgin. Said, I want to revolutionize the industry that I'm in. I don't want to be tied to what anybody else has done in the past. So did he have any of that to go on? Not one thing. But that's what he wanted to be. So that's what they tried to build.
And they call them stores.
They call them stores. And they
Yeah.
have universal tellers. And they just kind of, and I don't think they're that revolutionary now,
No.
but they were a client of mine 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, it was radical. But again, it's kind of what you put your mind to is where you will go. So thinking about poster children. Anybody have great poster children? Oprah? All right, in charge of thinking about it. Gotta think about it. Okay. Thank you. So here's some words, if you needed some words. And this is something I ask clients to do all the time. I just start with this. Find 3 words on this page that describe you currently, and 3 words on this page that describe your ideal self. So if you had trouble with the creative business sales, but keep in mind they have to cover those 3 pillars. And I use this for a lot of things. So some of them are not all good words up there. I had an accounting firm actually choose sexy. I was like, please explain. This was the employees. And they said, well, we want accounting to be sexy again. I said, you said again. They said, I know, because when I got out of college, it was the sexiest thing in the world. It's all I wanted to do. It was like the greatest. And then I find out not everybody feels that way. And now I don't tell people at cocktail parties. So that was the mission. It is now on their website. That is their goal, is to make accounting sexy again. They are the funniest people on earth. They throw awesome parties. And the way that they recruit, their whole advertising strategy is to recruit people who fit their tribe. And that the experience then will speak for itself. Which I think is awesome. There's more than one right answer. So if you get your 3 words current and your 3 words ideal, figure out what your gaps are, what you need to do to move there, So you can get a poster child for your ideal. And if you're really kind of not sure, ask people who know you, who will be straightforward with you. How would you describe me in 3 words? I was shocked. I've asked people that and I was like, what? Where did you get that? But okay, because what we project is not necessarily what we want to project, right? So we just got to ask people. Excellent. And if you need more time, let me know, but I got lots to tell you about. Besides a famous person, living or dead, you could also do a brand analogy. So is there a brand out in the world that shares those same 3 words for ideal? It could be, and I don't even remember what mine were, you know, you get original, a little mysterious and dynamic, and doesn't have to be on here. So mine was Tesla. I'm like, if Tesla can do that to the car industry, that's what I want to do to the research industry, right? So you're just finding an analogy of, oh, I want to be like the blank of that industry. Absolute Vodka, back in the day, was the first evidence that I found of being both youthful and sophisticated. So it was the only high-end premium vodka, but they were doing all kinds of things with artists, being completely irreverent. You know, everything was with the bottle shape. I was like, youthful sophistication can live. New permission. So as you see brands that you are attracted to, try to back them out and say, how would I describe them in 3 words? So we're forging a path, and the more you do it frontwards and backwards, the easier it's going to be to see that brand anchor for your 3 words. But it's committing to them. I think it's really important to write them down. You can change them, but try them on like a coat for a day. Trust your gut. It's like the SATs. Go with your first instinct, and then try to see if it lives out in the marketplace. So one of my first brands, early days, and if I brought some DVDs because people yell at me when I don't bring them, but that's my old branding. And that was, I wanted to convey both expertise and fun. So I'm like, how do expertise and fun live in the same space? And I had a hard time finding a poster child, so I ended up with a smash up of 2, which was Dr. Seuss meets Einstein. And if everything I put out could have a little bit of Dr. Seuss in it and a little bit of Einstein in it, then I was good. But it kind of gives you that touchstone, or is this how I want to put myself out there? Okay, yes, please. Another thing you can do is to write a love letter to your brand, to your craft, to your job. I mean, you can write a love letter to anything, but the more you write longhand, the more your subconscious gets to tell you what it's really thinking. We don't think well in computers. I know, isn't that crazy? We think then in PowerPoint, we think in bullet points, and we type, 40 words a minute forward and 30 words a minute backwards so we can fix all the squiggles and the misspellings, and we don't get the flow of thought. So rule of thumb, and this is one thing that I've heard people say made massive amounts of difference for them, was taking up the practice of morning pages. And morning pages is from The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. And it's the one thing that she said, sit down, and I only do it when I need to do it. It's not like every day, but you get up 15 minutes early, because you gotta do it in the morning, and you gotta do it before your editor's woken up. As they kill our finest impulses every day. That'll never work. And you let your pen fly. And you have to write at least 3 pages. 15 minutes early, before you've really woken up, 3 pages longhand. And at first it becomes a little brain dump, and it might be a vent, but that's fine. Get it out of your RAM. You have just so much room up here. So let it go. Then all of a sudden you might see some things that are interesting. You might see some thoughts that you go, ooh, I didn't know I was thinking that. Better yet, ask yourself a question. Love questions. Figuring out what your question is half the battle. You know, what would an icon be that would represent success to me? Write about it. La la la, la la la. All of a sudden, I've gone back and read things that I had no idea that I really wrote. And you know, if it's stuff that you worry about people reading, burn it. I mean, it's not a matter of rereading it, it's a matter of having written it. It's just a different form of expression. So, morning pages, huge. Writing a love letter to your brand would be an awesome place to start, in morning pages. Just seeing what comes out. What do you love about your craft and what you can put out there?
I don't know if you're going to go to this or not, but how do you feel about
worksheet is finding a quote that represents some aspect of your life philosophy, and it can be something you believe that you want to remind yourself of or something you want more of. So early days, mine was, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong, which is a Groucho Marx about comedy, but it was also about my job, because I can make it as fun as I want it to be. If I want to take it super seriously and write a very detailed research report and hate it, that's my prerogative. Nobody told me I had to do that. If I want to write something that's wild and use juicy language, I'm allowed to do that. So it was reminding myself, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. And then I also wore thumb rings for a time. Every time I sat down to write, it would remind me, hey, this is not a white paper. You do not have to wear a three-piece suit. You work for the creative department. Let it fly. And quotes can change. So I change them as I need them. But I'm a big fan of having something that can run through your head when you need it to run through your head, other than do your timesheets, and I'm so tired and I have so much to do. I can put them on sticky notes. I make them screensavers. I love it. Every time I come back to my desk, I'm like, right, that. All good? Thank you. If you're really stuck with the benefits of your company, pretend it goes away. And my clients hate doing this, but this is pretend your brand died. Pretend your alter career died. Pretend your company died. How would it be remembered? Who would most mourn its passing? She's leaving and I'm sorry. And you get 7 words and only 7 words. So just capturing even what gap you would leave is a big indicator then of helping you figure out what your benefits are. Because I find we always, especially women, we just underplay it. We underplay kind of what people get out of it. And if you don't really know, ask them. Clients love to be asked. Why did you choose me? You know, what did you value most about what I brought to the table? You know, take them to lunch. They'll do it. Even if you only get 1 or 2. Again, it's if it feels right in your gut, then you got the information you need. Please. So again, this is the brand you brief. So we're kicking around. I'm trying to see what I missed. Expressions. It's knowing how people. Let me back that up. It's how people will know that you are those 3 words, those ideal words, without you telling them. So you always have the opportunity to speak it, and big cheat sheet is use those words when you're describing yourself or your work, and people will play that back to you. They love it when you see the conversation. Yes.
Which words are you referring to? The 3 from that chart or the other 3?
It's whichever worked for you, but the 3 from that or the 3 ideal.
Okay.
You know, eventually from all of those worksheets, you can get to 3 that you love, but it'll be those 3 that will be the anchors for your brand. And if you find a poster child for that, that would be grand. So it could be, your brand can be expressed in how you write, it can be expressed in the logo, it can be expressed in fonts, brand books, websites, PDF, brochures, what you wear to a meeting, what you write in a proposal. I mean, just think of all of the different ways that you could demonstrate those 3 words, and keep track of your expressions. It's stunning sometimes, the things that, you know, people say, I don't know, your voicemail message, the ringtone on your phone, I don't know, it could be anything. But thinking about how you want to put it across and what your strongest ways to put that across. Personality, I think, really are those 3 words. So, and I intentionally don't have integrity on that list because it drives me nuts. That has to be demonstrated. You can't state it, and it's a given in my book. If you don't have that, you're not going to be in business very long anyway. So, given that you are an expert in your field, then what are the 3 words that you need to add some personality to your brand? So hopefully those words are values, but they're also juicy enough to be a brand personality. And if you can come up with a poster child and a brand that aligns with that, like a Tesla or a Dr. Seuss, then that gives you a sense of how and not just what you want to put that across. Brand closest, again, is that alignment with another brand out in the universe. Could be, you know, and again for Umpqua, they would put Virgin in that center. That's my poster child, that's what I'm going for. Not in terms of what they do, but how they do it. So look and feel and attitude more than anything. Magnetic virtue, I think comes after a while, but if anybody has one, awesome. But kicking around that one word emotional benefit of doing business with you. What do they get out of it? What do your clients get out of what you do for them? Could be peace of mind, could be confidence, could be a sense of belonging, could be, you know, and in my world, it's transformation. You know, if you don't come wanting to change something, then we're not gonna get along very well, because what would be the point? We either wanna grow, or we wanna fix a problem. But if we like things the way they are, it's just not gonna work for me. Sorry, it's part of the deal. So, thinking about your magnetic virtue, from their standpoint and your standpoint. Your icon and the meaning, something you can play with, and doodling things, and Googling symbols and the meanings of symbols, Greek mythology, whatever you need. Totems can be really easy to plug in there in the short term. If you have current clients, just knowing where your lion's share of revenue comes from, people and products is huge. Mantra, it's kind of like just that quote that's going to remind us of what we want more of, or where we're going, or what we want to put out in the world. Another one I love is race car driver said, if you ain't just a little bit scared, you ain't driving fast enough. Because for a lot of people, it was overcoming fear, right? Fear is one of those things that keeps people from putting their brand out there. And so the question is, okay, fear of what? You know, worst case scenario, people are going to be indifferent, right? People don't necessarily jump up and down and have a fit about how something is put out there. But it can be just one of those things that reminds you to move in that direction. And so the thing about fear is, if that is one of the things that's stopping you, something like that King Petty quote, if you ain't just a little bit scared, you ain't driving fast enough, can kind of help you move beyond that. And then the other I find is realizing that fear and exhilaration feel exactly the same. Exactly. So that little bit of when you throw up is fear, and it's also really excited. So if you decide to tell yourself that you are excited, fear's just gonna kind of trickle away just a little bit. You can also cultivate courage. You say, ride a roller coaster till it's not scary anymore. All of a sudden, you've developed a muscle. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this anyway. Isn't that courage, being afraid and doing it anyway? So I think cultivating all of those things is always a good thing to do. And then defining success. And I do want to take a minute to do this, because I find the more I speak to people, the more I teach at the Art Institute and talk to people about how they define success, 9 times out of 10, I get a dollar figure. And I'm like, okay, that's one place to start. And I think you should be very specific about that dollar figure that you want. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But beyond that, if you had it, then what? What would you do with your time? How would you feel? How would you spend your day? It's kind of a, if you had it, then what? So defining success by how you want it to feel, by how you want to spend your time, by where you might want to live, by what you want to do, hobbies you want to cultivate, and I would say all of those things. So if we're going to write a brief for success, it's got to have a whole bunch of stuff in there. And, you know, I'm guilty of it. You know, recovering workaholic. It was like, what are the things I love to do? It's like, I don't know, I work. I love to work. You know, I have 3 things that I would put in as potential hobbies. Okay, not acceptable. So I've had to cultivate that list and actively say, you know what, I really do want to try that. Yes, I'm going to learn how to cook, so help me. Loads of fun, especially when somebody else cleans up. And, so cultivating is, you don't have to have it right this minute, but knowing that we define success in ways other than money, and being very clear about what we want. And I'll explain that in a minute why. So, and again, just to give you, and I think I've told you all this about my company, but role, and it's kind of complicated, but as a strategist, I bridge the business world and the creative world. So I take objectives and help those turn into ad strategies so that campaigns can actually achieve those objectives. And then creatives tell me this is what this is supposed to do, and I've got to translate into words that my venture capitalists and Harvard MBAs will understand. So I am a translator and bridge those worlds. Business materials that I put out there, brands that I've worked on, are expressions. And thumb rings was one of my expressions. says I am not in the research department, I'm in the creative department. Again, it's more for myself than anybody else. But the one thing about defining success and then doing something about it. So once I defined success, and at least said success for me would be never to have to go to a meeting in the morning again, unless I'm getting paid for it. So I designed it that way. So I can wish for it, and I can tell clients that, but I also then put in carrots and sticks, right? And motivators and barriers. So I tell my clients, especially nonprofits, because I love them, I work for loads of them, but my goodness, they love to meet. If we meet in a boardroom, bless you, I will charge you for it. If we meet over food and beverage, it is a conversation. It is not a meeting, and I will not charge you for it. So 99% of the time I meet clients over food and wine, over lunch, or at the end of the day. We have far better conversations. They are focused. I don't charge them for it because I enjoy it. It's not a meeting. It doesn't feel like a meeting. So it's just, you can turn little dials and set things in place that kind of say, this is what I want more of and this is what I want less of. And I'm going to try and ask people and set things up so that I get what I want and I don't have to do what I don't want. Lo and behold, one little thing can make a massive difference. And because Harvard Business Review is even talking about this. It's not about managing your time, it's about managing your energy. Right? There are things that lift us up, there are things that bring us down, there are things that inspire us, and there are things that are kryptonite. Identifying those and then reducing or removing them and doing more of the stuff we love, the things that inspire us. If I get inspired by cooking, if it is not on my calendar, it's not in my schedule, it's one of those things that just disappears. I don't know what happened to it. Didn't have time. But I always end up time for email because at the time it had a bell attached. So the things that have bells attached, we tend to do without thinking about them. Rule 1, turn your bells off. Everything. A ringing phone is an invitation, it is not a command. Right? So we have to take back stuff we love, get rid of stuff we don't, keep the stuff that's going to get us where we want to go, and get rid of the stuff that's just fluff, that just eats up our time and energy because it does. Right? So it's all with intention. So, and I won't ask you to write a manifesto, but I'm a big fan. Once you start writing your morning pages, and you start kicking those around, you start writing about what it's really about, what your magnetic virtue is, and not what you make, but what you're really selling. You can kind of put it in a prose, pithy paragraph that can be shared with people. I've had people write manifestos, and I'll show you a personal one in a minute, for job interviews. I have seen, I wrote one for Dove Lewis, an animal hospital. They put it on the outside of their new hospital as a welcome to people who were coming in the emergency room. We see what you see, we believe what you believe, we are kindred spirits. So it is, even if you only do it for yourself, kind of knowing is one thing, putting it into words is another. And if you have the ability to share it, yet another. So this can be about your craft, it can be about your industry, it can be about the benefits of doing business with you. But it's really around magnetic virtue or role, I find. What do you do for them? What does it say about them? What's the sandbox you really want to play in? Thank you ever so much. So momentum is one of those things that I've decided that I just can't get enough of. It's the sitting still that drives me crazy. We gotta be moving. We gotta be going somewhere. So those, and then we write about it. I wrote about illumination. It kind of took me a little ways, but not down the path. Momentum took me farther down the path, but transformation's kind of taken me even farther down the path, but I haven't written one about that yet, if you don't mind. And then I think a good place to start when you know what your inspirations and drains are. Write a manifesto about what makes you tick, right? What's the, why are you good at your craft? Why do you do what you do? And it's, again, very personal, but I find branding intensely personal. You've got to have a piece of yourself in that. And even if it's not your company, you got to have an altar career. I think it gets you out of bed in the morning. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. Do it just for the fun of doing it so that you have it in your hip pocket should you ever need it. Because security is a myth. So yeah, I have used this to get, actually I wrote this the first time because Chris Riley, who is the director, was the director of account planning at Wyden 110 years ago, add years or dog years, so I'm like 600 at this point. It was a long time ago. He said, I've got your resume, so I know, I have an accounting of your time. I know where you've worked, I know what you know how to do. I need to know who you are so that I can see if you are a good cultural fit. Oh, goosebump, awesome. That's what I want to. So sat down, big sheet of paper, no lines, wicked cool pen. What you use as your tools can lift you up or bring you down, right? So wicked cool pen, start hammering out what makes me tick. Great thing to do for morning pages. What lifts me up? What do I want less of? So define the enemy, mediocrity. Mediocrity is death. Create something amazing. I even have it on a t-shirt, it's this. So lady did it for me, that's white bread. White bread will kill you.
That's hilarious.
So, Alchemy of Momentum, because I only touched on a couple of things here and there. It's a rocket ship, essentially. Focus is knowing where you want to go. Define success. Know where your money comes from. Alignment is dropping all your sandbags. It's aligning everything in word and action to get you to this. If it doesn't get you to this, let it go. Propulsion is joy. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's what gives us energy. So those things that you love to do that just kind of make the time fly, we need to cultivate that. Because that's what you borrow, that's what you bring, that's what you use and what you leverage for doing the stuff that you don't want to do until you can get somebody else to do that for you. So propulsion would be 10 things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money or take a lot of time that make your heart sing. Ready, go. 10 things you can do that don't take a lot of time or cost a lot of money that make your heart sing. Could be taking a bath, could be walking the dog, could be fresh flowers out of the garden. Could be anything. But just start a list.
What did you say alignment was? I'm sorry.
Alignment, I'll go back to that after this one. Okay. So 10 things you can do. Don't cost a lot of money or take a lot of time that make your heart sing. Put them in your schedule. Make a list. Tape it to your computer. Because we will fill a vacuum. If we find ourselves with some time, we're going to stick in something else in there that's not one of these things. Because these don't have bells attached. So we have to start reminding ourselves to do these things so that we get more energy. Alignment is lifts and drains. What are the things that lift me up at work? The things that I do that I love. What are the things that bring me down? What are my kryptonite? So meetings would be my kryptonite. Wicked cool pens would be an inspiration. Right? So I need more of this and I need less of that. And focus is, what do I want out of all of this? How do I define success? So a rocket ship, here's my thing about momentum. A rocket ship has X thousands of gallons of fuel. Physics was a long time ago. All right, it's got a bunch of fuel. Conventional so-called wisdom, and I can do a whole day on conventional so-called wisdom, the things that we believe that really aren't true. Like Guinness has fewer calories than Corona. True story. Yeah, I was like, what? Is conventional so-called wisdom would say that it would take half the rocket's total fuel to get there and half its total fuel to get back. And that's if momentum and resistance were not at play. But they are at play. This is not like a board game where every square is worth the same. This is chutes and ladders. Momentum is a natural success, and resistance is way more powerful than we think. Resistance is the universal conspiracy to keep things the way they are. We love a rut. We love the way things are. Clutter is the biggest fuel for resistance. Full stop. I won't even go there.
My husband's the poster child.
Your poster child, what?
For that, it's my husband.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he's a crack up. Everything you said that he's, what do you call it? What are those? Collects everything?
Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collector.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, it's a crack
Yes.
up.
You need to make your own space.
Oh,
But we
big
can talk
time.
about that.
He's a turtle.
So half of the rocket's total fuel gets past 1 mile of atmosphere. 1 mile. Little bitty blip, you wouldn't even see it. Half its total fuel. That's resistance. That's, I need 21 days to make a change. That's, wow, this is going to be a little more work to do morning pages. Wow, I could just keep doing things the way that I've been doing them and that would be fine. However, when you get past that first mile, Momentum is you're there and back on half a tank, right? So as soon as you pop through, woo, things are easy. And you know when momentum's working for you because you're on a roll, right? I can do that and I can do that, and I thought that was going to take me 2 days. It took me an hour. Check that out. It happens. Doesn't happen very often, but it can happen more often. Yes, please. I'm not going to keep you, but I got to hurry. Written goals. Writing down your goals is more powerful than just thinking them. And I'll give you a really quick example. So Harvard did a study in the 1960s, and they wanted to know what percentage of the graduating class had financial goals. And they wanted to know what percentage of the graduating class had written down financial goals. So they went back 20 years later, counted for any windfall, but back in the day they were pretty homogenous. They found that 10% of people had financial goals. Only 3% of them had written those goals down. And the 3% made more than the other 97% combined. And they could attribute it to nothing else but writing it down. So, the other thing about being specific, Tammy Faye Baker said on her deathbed, I used to pray and pray and pray, God, please make my life interesting. And I realize now I should have been much more specific. As you define success, as you decide what you don't want more of, be very specific, because you will get it. CEO time audit. They followed people around, CEOs. They asked them how they spent their time, and then they followed them around. What they thought they were doing had nothing to do with what they were actually doing, because they just thought, I'm doing the stuff I'm supposed to be, but they actually weren't. So auditing how you really spent your time is critical. And the last one I'll throw you is skiing trees. This is another muscle we have to cultivate. So when you're skiing trees for the first time, they'll say your habit is going to be don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. But your brain doesn't hear negatives. The universe doesn't hear negatives. You hear tree, 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 and you have a lovely pine fresh scent for the rest of the day. You have to train yourself to see spaces. Space, space, space. And as soon as you only see spaces, you only hit spaces. If you look at your calendar, if you look at the things that you have to do, start looking for spaces. I have time between these. I have time between these. I have time here. And start finding windows of time to do that other stuff that we want to do. And I know I've kept you, so I'm sorry, and I won't go through the rest of this. But I do have DVDs if you want them. I have an email address at the end if you guys want to shoot me an email. And I will make this available to you through you guys. So, email address is there. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever.
Any questions?
Works.
Anybody have any questions before we wrap up? Nope.
It's a lot. But I figured I had you, and I just can't throw you a little bone without saying, oh, go do this, and go do this, and go do that. So that's my pointy little stick. So thank you for your time today, ladies.
Thank you, Lynette, and thank you all for coming in. Can you please just take a second and fill out your evaluation sheet before you go? And